this is the first time that any of us have done this kind of COVID-19 secret operations on a computer. So thanks very much for the guys that set it up, Chris and everyone. And a lot of our supporters are on here, which is like really heartening to see. They've given up their time as well. Stasia and even Holly Budge from the United Kingdom. It's incredible when you look at the names on the top of this list. You realize that you're not actually alone in the world. And all the comments that are coming through here on the side. We tend to forget. We're isolated down here. We don't have access to television, etc. So, it's really good for us to know that there's so much interest and so many good people out there that are striving for similar things. Thanks very much, everybody. Introductions have been made already. I think a lot of you have probably heard of the Black Mamba, what I like to call Wildlife Security Program or Wildlife Security Initiative. And what we're trying to do is merge the traditional armed response to wildlife security with the sort of philosophical community involvement, community upliftment, women empowerment angle that you hear so much about, but you don't really see a lot of it in practice on the ground. Just a quick word of thanks to our sponsors as well. This is one of the extended public works programs within the government of South Africa under the Department of Environmental Affairs. So a lot of you will remember the Coast Care cleanups and the work on fire and work for water and what have you. The Black Mambas are co-funded by the department. You can see their badge at the bottom there, which to me lends a certain credibility to the program as well. Be able to put their badge there. It's a good news story for South Africa. All right, so where do we fit in? Where are we sitting now? That's the Greater Kruger Park landscape that you guys are quite familiar with. And that little badge that you can see over there is the Baluli Nature Reserve, sort of the western extremity. And right, let's just quickly fly into the mission. When we started this program, this was in 2012, 2013, the rhinos were dropping like flies, and one could say we were pretty much tripping over and we couldn't get to all of the autopsies in time. So we decided we needed a different approach, a longer term vision to trying to shoot the problem off our landscape, because, although you might win a small victory, what is going to stop this from rearing its ugly head again in the future? If the supply and demand change shifts to a different species or whatever it might be. And there's obviously a causal factor that needs to be addressed. So, coming from somebody that wants to join, another admin now, shall I click it? There, clicked. Okay, so the second point is probably the most, I think every anti-poaching unit or every wildlife security unit is trying to achieve the top bullet point, to make it the most difficult, undesirable, unprofitable, or risky area to poach. But that could be a short-term victory, especially if you are creating animosity in your local communities and creating orphans and widows. There's a social impact that we're going to have to pick up the tab. When I hand over the reins as warden to the next guy, is he going to be sitting with a much bigger socio-political problem? Or can we use this as the window of opportunity to build what I call a patriotic community, a community that is patriotic towards the park, the landscape, and the wildlife. And, it sounds all terribly philosophical, so I think we'll skip that slide. Skipping. Later, what's happening here?
This was in 2014 when I just passed my interview and I came back to start the training. So it was a difficult training. We were 10 girls. We were just that village, not knowing anything about bush. And then we came here and then we started to train how to behave in the bush, to learn about the bush and the poachers and the animals' behavior. So here we were doing our training where we're trying to uplift each other and also motivate each other as ladies and be a strong teamwork. So you can see we're holding each other's hands, trying to make sure that we all reach our goals.
Yeah, it's one of the questions that we get asked quite a lot is, why did you choose women? And, it's, if you've got a problem, why don't you just stick to the traditional old thing and take your rusty old tools out of your rusty old toolbox and fling it at the same problem again? And, we're not advocating that you can get rid of the armed guard component, by no means. But what we are saying is that there needs to be a multi-pronged approach to this, and something that has a longer term buy-in And, you know, women are the sisters, the mothers, the aunties, the wives. It's a multi-generational investment that you make into the primary caregivers in the community. The training later, that's pretty hectic training that you guys went. Exactly the same training as any other field ranger would do that you're going to deploy for wildlife security purposes. Yeah.
It was a hard training because it was our first time to do this. And rather than that, it's just that it was one of the things that so many people thought ladies cannot do it. And we were also growing up with that mind that we can't do it. But then being here with the girls that I went to training with, we've realized that we can also do it. Not listening to what people are saying. What you tell yourself that you can do, you're going to do it. And then the training was very much hard. We sleep in the bush. You only eat once, and you are sleeping with your uniform. The sergeant was so hard. But at the end of the day, after our training, we've realized that they were not hard, but they were teaching us how to survive in the bush, because going to the bush, you need to know and be ready for what you're going to come across. It's not just funny stuff.
I was the nice one, eh?
Great. Sorry, Chris here. When later talk, if you can just sit a little bit closer, it's a little bit soft. All right, but otherwise it's fine. Thank you, Craig. Carry on. My apologies.
Good stuff. Thanks, Chris. All right. So what we found is quite important is if you're going to select women and you're going to empower women from the local community or anywhere really to do this, they have to be proud to be women. So it would become like sort of counterproductive if we shaved their heads and painted them with war paint and sent them out there like G.I. Jane and claimed victory as a bunch of men. We've empowered women now because we have managed to dress them up and make them exactly like men. You know, so that was quite a hard pill for us to swallow. And we also had to realize that, you know, if this is going to be about empowering women and strengthening women and creating role models in the communities, then we had to allow the women to celebrate the fact that women. Look at in this picture, even during the training, we expect them when they are on parade to look their best. Not like, I don't want G.I. Jane shaven heads and paint on the face, you know, and that sort of thing. Lipstick, earrings, blah, blah. We get into a lot of trouble for that. We pick up quite a bit of criticism for it as well. You know, it's one of the challenges that we face on this landscape. People always criticizing us, saying, oh my goodness, they look like a bunch of women. I said, well, that's because they are, ironically. So now I'm trying to click to the next slide, but Chris, somehow...
Great, make sure that your cursor is on the slide and then you click.
Yes.
Just keep your cursor on the slide and then click.
Alrighty, it's white. What is this now, a political statement? Wait, let's go back and try again. All right, here it comes. Okay. All right, I said earlier that I was actually going to take the slide out, but I just thought, you know, a lot of people are asking what is the value of deploying unarmed women in a sort of conflict zone. The primary objective of deploying the Mambas, and I believe that they actually fulfill a more dangerous role than the armed guards that we deploy in the isolated parts of the park, living in foxholes and whatever, because they are on the public interface for the early detection of poachers or any kind of wildlife crime or environmental crimes, and the monitoring and the surveillance and the compliance. I say every single one of these Mambas has got an MSc, because every day they're going out there and exercising their monitoring, surveillance, and compliance techniques. Okay, and it's of course the community thing, and addressing the two key words that we should go away with here is the social decay and the false economy that something like rhino poaching or a high value resource can create. And once we've got, just look at the abalone and the rock lobster industry in the Western Cape, and you will see what's happened with the social decay. Okay, and the false economy. Good luck to anybody trying to address that, he said knowingly. Okay, later, what on earth is going on here?
We are doing roadblocks. The reason we do roadblocks inside the reserve is because we don't want people from inside the reserve, as we've got so many lodges that there are so many people that are coming in and people who are coming to renovate the houses that are inside the reserve. So we do roadblock to make sure that people don't go out with anything that is supposed to be inside the reserve, but they don't come inside the reserve with illegal things like weapons, bullets that they're going to harm the animals inside. And there is a picture there of a homemade rifle. they made that thing to be on silent when they shoot the rhino so that we don't hear it. And at the end, they're going to kill a rhino and cut branches to close the rhino so that the vultures doesn't do their activity well to give us an alert that there is something that is happening there.
And that top picture?
And the top picture, we were we were going for our sweep, but then we have to drill in the morning, make sure that we've got all the things that we need, all our equipments that we need to use in the bush, because we do discipline and make sure that all the members are ready to go and face the day.
Just for interest's sake, if you look at that homemade weapon at the bottom, so, you know, from a sort of human behavior perspective, a criminology perspective, that, look how that weapon has been designed, okay? It's got a silencer on the front. So the first thing that tells me is that these guys want to get in and out undetected. You wouldn't put a silencer on front of you, it would compromise the velocity of the bullet, and the entire weapon is horrendous. You know, I think that's probably the most dangerous thing anyway. But the point is, if you put sponge under your shoes and you're coming in at midnight and you're putting a silencer on your weapon and you're sneaking around, it means you don't want to be caught. Okay, so that's one of the ways that we measure whether we're putting the poachers under pressure or not, is in their actual behavior. But I think I might. I'll see. All right, so this is a very boring little X and Y axis that I slapped together, so I'm going to whiz through it quickly. There are 3 basic levels to our compliance model, and you can see where the Mambas fit in. If you look at the X-axis on the ground, you could call it the amount of hectares covered or the amount of time spent or whatever you want to call it, the broadest base of the pyramid, and that's our bobbies on the beat. So they walk a beat every day and they drive a beat every night and they sweep a beat. They know every vehicle, every person that's at every house, and so on and so on. So they will recognize something that's out of the ordinary. Right, and that's a lot of people covering a lot of ground. Then we have a much smaller component as you go up the Y-axis, where they are a lot more tactical, but there's a lot less of them. They don't have to cover the same amount of hectares because they're relying on the previous tier of the pyramid. And then right at the top, that's where the information gathering happens and the strategic deployment. That's our little operations room, which is sitting next door to us over there. So the important component for me is the bobbies on the beat. Okay, it's visual policing, it's early detection. And it's, oh, that's Mrs. Jones going to drop her kids off at school. She's late. It's 8:10. She's never going to make it. Oh, but hang on, what vehicle is that? I don't recognize that vehicle. There's a rock that's been turned over. That rock wasn't like that the last time I walked here, which was this morning, etc. Okay.
So the Black Mambas are the role models in the communities that we are coming from, because so many people in the communities are unemployed. And so many people in the community never thought that what we are doing, a women can do. After we have proved to people that we can work in the bush unarmed and we can make sure that bushmeat poaching and rhino poaching decrease by putting our boots in the ground. We have become role models to so many people, old people, young people, and kids at school. So this has shown that the Black Mambas are really working hard, because we go to the communities and teach them what we are doing in the bush, and also invest in them that we should conserve nature and the animals so that their future can be great.
Okay, thank you very much, Leita. The next one is pretty much repetitive, but I think say something about that. Look at that ancient old Land Rover in the background. One of the things that makes me really proud is that these ladies have learned to drive these old ancient series 1, 2, and 3 Land Rovers as well. It's all we can afford.
The members got pride and dignity in their job. We have pride because we are women and we are doing this job and we are best in this job, if you can ask me. And we have dignity because this is what we want to do, and we're doing this for our future generation. And we are not just wearing this camouflage uniform so that people can say that it's the first time they see women in camouflage uniform. We are doing this because we want to protect the iconic animals that we are having in South Africa, as we have realized that the future of our young generation is in the nature conservation.
Okay, that was one of the highlights of your career, I'm sure.
then we won the award of Champion of the Earth. We also didn't win this because we are women with lipsticks and earrings, but we won this because of the job that we are doing, putting our boots in the ground, risking our lives, making sure that the animals are safe, advertising ourselves, exposing ourselves in the main road of Hoedspruit and Palabora, so that everybody, when they drive in the road, they see that we are here, we're patrolling, we mean business. And by working 21 days and going home for 10 days, we don't spend more time with our families, but then we spend more time in the bush. So this is all the things that made us be the champions of the earth.
Excellent. What's cooking?
Here we are cooking that we cherish life and we do not want to live in a village of widows and orphans. If I was a woman who is armed, all the situation, the challenges that I've come across in the bush, I should have shot somebody. I should have killed somebody. But because I am unarmed, I made sure that I put the ground and chase those poachers out so that they can go and do some illegal things outside the reserve. Because I am coming from a village where the poachers are also coming from the village. So if we kill them, in the village, when I go back, I will find widows and I will find kids that doesn't have fathers. And those kids will grow up with revenge, saying that one of our community member killed my father. And then it will be a war between us and the community. And that will make people in the community to attack more inside the reserve. So we're making sure that we go to the community and teach people how to conserve nature, and also making sure that we don't live in a village where there are widows and orphans, so that people can see that together we are working, and also the people in the community can benefit inside the reserve by getting jobs. And when we chase them, they will start to realize that I just have to use my hands to work and get money to support my family.
Yeah, thanks. Later, this was something that we realized right from the very beginning. I've been in this industry for 24 years and cut my teeth on the illegal abalone industry as well. And if there's one thing for all of those people sitting overseas, we don't have the same safety nets that you have. But there's nobody from Australia here, because I think the time zone's a bit odd for them. But if one of my rangers gets into a conflict situation and there's a loss of life, or they have to use their weapon or whatever it might be, we don't have the same counseling and all those safety. If a policeman overseas pulls his weapon, then they freak out and they get whisked away to the padded cell with teddy bears and hot chocolate or something. I'm not sure, but out here you get sent home or you get arrested or whatever. It's a totally different approach. We want our mothers in those communities to tuck their children into bed at night and tell them fantastical stories about the elephants playing in the waterhole and the beautiful sounds of the hyenas and the lovely sunsets, rather than your mom or your dad is so cool because I carry a big gun and shoot shit. I blow things up and shoot things and whatever. That's not cool, because that is just creating a completely different mindset in the children's minds. And I can bang on about that forever. I'm no psychiatrist. Just for interest's sake, one of the, this is one of the orphans from the Baluli landscape. We've got quite a few of them dotted around at various institutions and facilities. And some of the Mambas are responsible for looking after the orphans as well. So they have this one-on-one contact. So in the one breath, the Mambas tell me they don't want to live in a village with orphans and widows. And in the next breath, they tell me that they don't want to live in a world without wild animals at the same time. You can't have your cake and eat it. Somewhere along the track, somebody's going to die. It's we joke about it a lot, but it's actually not a laughing matter. This is later. Just say something quickly about this unity, this picture, whatever's going on here.
We are one big family because we are women. We support each other. We uplift each other. There's so many challenges that women come across in life. But then we support each other, and we have identity and dignity. We also have respect to each other, because we're working in the bush where the animals are also not our friends. They can harm us anytime. But then we respect each other, and also make sure that I go on my morning patrol with a lady that I trust, somebody that I know that if she see a lion before me, she will tell me that, sister, let's wait. I think I saw something. And we have schools. We were trained. It's now 6 years. We've been patrolling the fence. None of the members has been killed. None of the members has been
It's been pretty close.
By animals. We came across so many challenges, like being chased by lions, but because we stood together and used the skills that we get, we all survive.
Very good. Glad to hear you all survived. So, okay, so we obviously have a lot of technology that backs us up as well. You know, I think that, like I said in the beginning, it's a multi-pronged approach. The Mambas, this is just a depiction of the daily report I receive on my Android phone of the Mamba patrols, where they've been, what they've seen, and so on and so on. And we can deploy depending on where we assume the risks are going to be. So I think technology is very important, you know, otherwise you're just walking around blind and so on. What I wanted to try and demonstrate with this slide is, you know, a lot of people will assume that a routine on a patrol regime is silly because the poachers will cotton on to that very quickly. But we know that we can't close the window for 24 hours. But what we can do is we can push the poachers into the most undesirable poaching times. So if they don't want to be detected coming in or going out or what have you, we need to close those optimum times, the full moon periods, dusk and dawn, and all that kind of thing. So we leave them at that darkest time of the night where they have to walk and use beacons like power lines and windmills and or wind pumps and so on to navigate. And they might have to expose themselves with a torch or a cell phone or something just to be able to navigate around the desert. So yeah, we do have a routine. And we stick to the routine because we know that that window then is at least closed. Okay, and here's just another little X and Y that shows when my patrols are active and how much ground they've covered and on what time. So the X-axis is the time of the day on that specific month, and you can see all the different patrol teams, and we like to close those times when we know the poachers are going to have the upper hand. And then there's a lull, everybody must rest in the heat of the day when nothing's going to go on, and then they kick off again when the sun sets. So yeah, that's to try and close those incursion times. And then another way that we measure whether we've been successful or not, these are on a 1 square kilometer grid pattern. I've used ancient data, so I'm not giving anything away in case Mr. Kim Jong-un or something is watching this and he's going to send people in. So this is how poacher behavior changed. This is the incursion routes that the poachers used in the past, all the way around through the months. And you can see, I mean, it's quite difficult for you guys to figure it out, but I'm going to activate my little laser pen that Chris taught me how to use earlier today. Laser pointer. Okay, there we go. This is Maseki. This is a piece of tribal trust lands up here. Okay, and this incursion route was identified by the Mambas. We didn't know that the poachers were accessing this area until we put a patrol on this boundary fence over there. We then moved cameras from this section that had just given us 1 million photographs of vivid monkeys and impala and all sorts of exciting things. We put them here, and within 24 hours, we had pictures of incursions coming. We planted a Mamba patrol and observation post over there, unarmed ladies sitting at nighttime, just observing, and the poachers came in, bumped into them, dropped everything and ran away screaming for their mommies. So we closed down that, and you can see how it shifted over time, which I think is quite cool. It's nice to see how the poachers' behavior changes according to how we deploy. Anyway, there's some of the classic images that you get on your camera traps. Okay, there's a GSM camera, so they come straight through to us. So what are our basic daily activities later?
Our morning patrol, early in the morning. Now it's winter, we start.
That's fine. I'm sure Kim Jong-un is not listening to us.
Okay.
And we'll change it tomorrow anyway.
Now it's winter, we start around 7, and in summer we start early to make sure that we find every information that the poachers would have left behind when they're trying to come inside the reserve at night. And as we said, that the Mambas are the eyes and ears of the reserve. We wake up early in the morning with pride, knowing that we're going to patrol at the boundaries of Balule, making sure that the animals are safe And then one team will be on the fence line, the other team will be sweeping for the snares, because you might think that people are the poachers are only focusing on the fence line, but they might be inside putting the snares, or they might be hiding inside because the sun came down while they were still busy trying to find where the rhinos are. And we also do our night shift where we don't walk at night, we drive. And we have our spotlight, we have our radio phones, and we've got our SIMO phone while we are checking for the poachers that are trying to come in and out. Every evidence that we found, we put it on the SIMO phone. So we also, a good picture of us doing that patrol with our spotlight. We find a place and observe if we can hear anything. Some of the poachers come with dogs, and then when we hear dogs barking in the bush, we know that no dogs is allowed to be in the bush at this time. Everybody are staying with their dogs at home. So obviously there is something suspicious here. Anything that we found in the fence, it can be a cigarette, a plastic of bread, a bottle of water. We follow up on what is happening here. And also those same thing that we found, because our boundaries are in the main road. Sometimes people are eating things and throw it. When we found those papers, we took it because we don't want our animals to end up eating plastics. And
okay, so
today we found 4 snares. We found 4 snares on our sweep, and then Mambas has found a poacher's road that they use to go inside the mine to steal coal.
Yes.
So we also do our roadblock.
You have indeed.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to get onto the bush babies now. So just to conclude, you know, we underestimate the snaring risk on our landscape. It's pretty much like any other kind of compliance model. If you want to adopt the broken window syndrome, you can't walk past somebody that's setting a snare or ignore a snaring problem, or somebody stealing sand or firewood, or leadwood trees, or whatever it might be, because your job is not just to catch the poacher with the gun because that's cool. You know, snaring is the single biggest killer of wildlife on this landscape and probably anywhere else. It's indiscriminate. You know, if I showed you the pictures, hopefully there are some coming up soon. The wall of death that they will put around a waterhole is like a gill net drifting through the ocean. It catches everything from an impala to a rhino and an elephant and a lion in between. And yet that was sort of quite forgotten. You'll see a lot of media coverage now, a lot of this hype in the media saying, oh, because of COVID-19, you know, poaching is out of control and whatever. It's not actually true. All right, it's actually the opposite. But what's happening now is anti-poaching units are going into areas that they haven't had access to before. Now we're doing it as well, because there's no lodge activity now, so we don't fear for our lives when a guest comes past on a game viewer or something, and we're finding snares. But it's unfair to say that snaring has now become a bigger problem, or rhino poaching has become a bigger problem. It just means that we're going into areas that we never went into before. So unless you've got baseline data to say, well, every day, Wednesdays and Fridays, I used to sweep this area and I only found 3 snares a month. Now I'm finding 60 snares a month. Then you've got something to work on. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out, that there's a lot of this going on in the media at the moment, and I'm interested to know where they're getting their information from. I want to quickly switch over to the others. So the Black Mambas are not just about catching poachers and careening around in the bush at nighttime on ancient Land Rovers, etc. We also have the Bush Babies program. Liwayne, I know you're listening now, so you can cheer silently there. This Liwayne is the chief educator and the project manager of the Bush Babies, and her team goes into 10 primary schools, 1,300 kids at their target on a daily basis, plus their community officers are moving around in the community, visiting homes and so on and so on. Our first mission was to try and construct or achieve a conducive teaching environment, because we went into those schools for the first time. They're hot, they're like 46 degrees Celsius inside, no windows, no fans, you know, the walls are falling down, there's 3 kids to a 2-seater desk, etc. The teacher doesn't even have a chair to sit on. This is a fact, you know. So who wants to go and teach? Who wants to go to work if your work environment is so poop? So we first had to fix that. And then the second thing is make it a pleasant and a stimulating teaching environment for children. One of the things that troubles me a lot, Liwayne and I have spoken about it during this COVID-19 thing, those kids all used to get 1 good meal a day when they went to school. They don't have access to that now, unfortunately. It's a bit sad. But the significance of this, and I know James and Tom are listening as well. I will get to that now. The significance of having this intervention in the bush with young women that have grown up in those communities, that are deployed, trained, empowered and deployed in the bush to protect the wildlife, and then coming back into the classrooms. These kids look up to them. So I need that platform. I need the platform to say, these are not just people in a uniform. They actually work amongst lions and elephants and put themselves in the face of danger, not just from wild animals, but from poachers as well, and so on. So when they come and talk to you, they actually are talking from a platform of knowledge, if you understand what I mean. It's very significant. And the kids are like in awe, like, wow, my mommy is a Black Mamba. Oh, that's nothing. My daddy is in the army. That's nothing. My mommy will donor your mommy because my mommy is a Black Mamba. It's anyway, what's happening here? Hey, Rosemary, you'll recognize some of these pictures from the March for Rhinos and Elephants. That's Rosemary Eiler's project, by the way. She's the CEO of that program.
Raise an awareness, sing with the kids, walk 5 kilometers. And then the good thing was that the old people, youth of the community, they came and joined us to sing together that we should protect the wild animals. And you can see the classes, they look so beautiful. Kids have drawn trees. Now they're so happy even when they think that tomorrow morning I'm going to school. I'm sure now kids are very much bored of sitting at home without going to school when they think that they should be seeing their beautiful classes. And in holidays, kids come to the reserve to see the real elephant, lions, the rhinos that we've been telling them that we are protecting at the schools.
Correct. I've just been informed via WhatsApp that our time is very short. So I'm going to whiz through this again. So this is pretty much just duplicating what we were saying earlier, the classroom before, the classroom afterwards. It's stimulating, it's nice, the kids are smart, they're proud, blah, blah, blah. It's self-discipline, etc. Okay, there's an example of some of the bush kitchens that the Mambas have discovered on our landscape. Really embarrassing, actually, when you find that these guys have been camping on your landscape and poaching, and that's like the hanging gardens of Babylon, of dead meat. All the vegans and vegetarians are cringing now, but that's every kind of species you can imagine, from warthogs to wild dogs are hanging in that tree. We found wild dog carcasses as well. Frightening. Snares, cable snares for buffalo, rhino, giraffe, you name it. It's all gone, thanks to the Black Mambas. Okay, I just want to quickly, the last 3 slides. Okay, thanks to Dr. James Berg, Living Desert and Zoo Garden and his colleagues. I'm just going to quickly give 4 of the key findings of the research that they conducted here, and it's just been recently published there, James. Thanks very much for that. So one of the primary key findings is that through experience and skills development, Black Mambas experience tremendous growth in self-esteem and self-sufficiency, both in the workplace and at home. That's significant. You have both of those, okay? And then the second key finding is 100% of the Black Mambas report the program has fundamentally changed their beliefs about what women can do, what they can achieve. You could probably word that any way you like, okay? And then the last 2, community residents of all the 4 target communities value wildlife and protected areas on an average of 8 out of 10. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 8 is the average. It's raining outside. Somebody celebrate, pop a cork. Where's my rum? Okay. And the last one, members of all 4 target communities recognize, I can't actually read what's written there because I did this slide last, because this little window of all of us are stuck there. Oh. Recognize and are encouraged by the beliefs of the the benefits of the Big 5 landscape. I got sidetracked by the bottle. The bottle's empty, by the way. It's a relic. So, that's pretty much what we're trying to achieve. There's one of our canine unit Mambas that is very proud to do what they do. One of our canines, he's sitting behind me on the floor over here, chewing on his Kong. So, bottom line, members of all 4 target communities are highly unsupportive of poaching. The communities vary, and the variable seems to be where we have the bush babies intervention. James, you'll remember that. Where we've got a strong bush babies footprint in the schools, that's where we score the highest with the communities, okay, on these 5 basic questions. So that's something that we need to focus a little bit more on. Later, last chance.
Black Mambas means so many things. You can come up with your own, but a good one. So Best Mothers and Be More. We are creative women. We try to come up with so many ideas on how to win this war. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, BM doesn't just stand for Black Mambas, eh? Best Mother.